starting at just 99 cents. And as always, only at Holiday.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez.
The Packers are the best team in the NFL. Perhaps not at football, but they are the best team. The Grizzlies heading for Sacramento. And Greg Bell to talk Seattle Seahawk football. It is Tootell Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you on this Monday afternoon. Nope, Tuesday. It's because Greg Bell's here. I'm not thinking it's Monday. It's Tuesday. Still a great day. We're happy to have you along. We hope you are having a wonderful day. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well. Listen live on the stream if you would like to. The stream available on all of your devices, your computers, and so on, 1029ESPN.com. There you listen live on the Listen Live tab. Thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to call, you can do that as well. 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899. That is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. If you're watching on television or on YouTube, the Tootell Nuanez YouTube channel, you can get it there as well. You are in for a treat today because I am in full Packer regalia. My Green Bay hat 2019, my Relax Aaron Rodgers t-shirt, which is what's that, circa 2016? Wasn't that about when the Relax thing started coming along? So I'm feeling very, very good today, and we are going to talk about the Green Bay Packers and their dismantling of the Detroit Lions.
You should just put the thank you card to Roger Goodell in your sleeve. Called down, made sure that the Lions could not be in first place in the NFC North. Made sure Aaron Rodgers had the fast track to the playoffs. The referees
had a little bit to do with it. I admit that. I would also say Matt Patricia had a little bit to do with it, and I'll get into that. The Green Bay Packers had no business winning the football game last night, which is why it's so glorious they did it. They're 3-0 against the North. What's going on? Let's take a look at what we got in the show. We are going to talk a little bit of NFL stuff. Huge news today. Marcus Peters traded from the Los Angeles Rams to the Baltimore Ravens. This ahead of the Ravens game against Seattle. I'm sure Russell Wilson is not going to be sending the Rams any thank you cards anytime soon for that moves, as a Pro Bowl type of corner moves now over to Baltimore the week before they play the Rams. So we'll get into that as well. We will also hear a little bit from Bobby Houck as the Grizzlies prepare for Sacramento State. Obviously, Montana State now on a bye, so it's the Grizz who have to figure out what to do with Troy Taylor and Kevin Thompson and the Sacramento State Hornets. Looking forward to this because we are going to have Troy Taylor, the head coach of Sacramento State, on later on in the week. So you can get yourself ready for that as well. So we'll get into some of that. We also have not touched on what happened in the prep world over the course of the weekend and the football standings as they are now. So we will get into those standings as well. And then again, at the top of the hour, Greg Bell covers the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News Tribune. He's a guy who is all over it with the Seattle Seahawks in terms of just his knowledge and his ability to convey that, in terms of what's going on. And so I think you'll be really interested to hear what he's got to say, particularly about Will Dissly. We'll get into that. And so there you go. There's our show outlook. It's brought to us by MissoulaGutterCleaning.com, the safest, the fastest, the most fun, and the most insured gutter cleaning company, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Coulter, you were texting me throughout the course of this game last night. The distilled version of what you texted me is what in the world is going on here over the course of the evening watching the Green Bay Packers. I don't know what the answer is there. They played a really poor football game. Here's what's interesting. They've played much better throughout the year, and I have been on the fence about the team. Last night, in what was probably the worst game that they've played this season, I actually had more optimism coming out of that game than any of them this year, and I'll tell you why. But obviously, the big discussion now is about the referees, and last night was a microcosm of what has become a major talking point, a talking point the NFL does not want about the referees and replay and everything that's going on. I think this is right. Since week 3, Coulter, coaches are 1 for 21, and it may be more after yesterday, in getting a pass interference review correct, or at least allowed, okay? And last night, there was what appeared to be a fairly clear pass interference on Green Bay that was not called, that Matt Patricia chose not to challenge. And you know what? I don't blame him a bit. Like, if he would have challenged it, they would have not given it to him anyways. And that is sort of out there. But there's been a number of calls and sort of what appear to be reffing fiascos, at least on television, that people are getting very, very upset with. We know we had the huge number of holding calls. That has backed off. I don't know, man. People think that the referees are not doing as good a job as they have in the past. I'm not sure about that at all. I think that they're under much more scrutiny than they've ever been. I think the reviews, to an extent, undercut the work that the referees do. And I also think that, and I think this is something you can actually look at, there's a lot more new referees, like head refs, than there have been. The old guard of referees has sort of moved on, and there's still always going to be a ton of experience because you don't just become a head referee. I mean, these guys have been line judges or umpires or whatever for however long, but I think a lot of these crews are being led by guys who are still new to it to a certain extent, and so some of the actual application of it has been tough. But a crew of referees is not unlike a team. I mean, they got to get out there, work together, get themselves sorted out, make sure that each one of them is doing their own job the way that they're supposed to do it. And last night, 2 huge penalties were called that should not have been called on hands to the face, one that continued to drive for Green Bay and one that effectively sealed it at the end in the favor of the Green Bay Packers. Now, Detroit Lions fans want to be, and are certainly welcome to be, up in arms on that. Did I say Green Bay Packers? Detroit Lions fans should be up in arms on that, and they have every reason, every cause to be furious. That said, you can also be furious at your own team and your own coach for a couple of things in this one as well. But nonetheless, let's start with the refereeing in general, Coulter. You and I have been on different sides of this review thing for our whole time, and I am coming to your side on this. I mean, I really am. I think that the reviews and the replay are bad for the sport in general, and just let them go out there and do it, because at the end of the day, if a guy is umpiring, is refereeing, whatever it is, with confidence, they are much more likely to do it. I mean, you see this in college basketball. It's egregious where they'll make a call and immediately sprint to the sideline, ruining the flow of the game because they, don't want to be the ones who are on national TV blowing a call or whatever. And I understand why would you want to be. But at some point, you just got to go, this is what it is, and we got to go play ball. But it ain't happening.
No matter how good of a referee you could possibly be, how good of an official you could possibly be at the NFL level, there's going to be so many calls that you just straight up can't see.
Totally.
You can't see all the way. I was talking to someone who I'll leave nameless, but who is an official in Montana high school football, and there was a controversial call in a game earlier this year, and there was a couple reporters there, a couple TV guys, newspaper guy, whatever. They were all on the sideline where the penalty or the penalty that wasn't called occurred, and they all had the video shot of it. And it's as this official told me, there's no humanly possible way that I could have gotten that call right from where I was at. And it makes me look as if I got it blatantly wrong because this dude was standing right here with a video camera. I can't do it. It's not possible for the way that you're positioned on the field. So if you're going to have human referees, the human element has to be a part of the game.
Definitely.
It's just like with umpiring, everything. And the thing is, you can say these guys are so bad. They're not. They're getting like 98%. Yeah. I mean, it's like since baseball went to the reviewing every single ball and strike and fair and foul call, I think last year Major League umpires missed something like 9 fair foul calls out of like 10,000 opportunities.
Yes.
Like, you are so good, it's unbelievable. And the one time you maybe make an error, okay, it's just part of it.
Here's the thing. This is the part where I understand it. I mean, you can go back to the NFC Championship game. You can go back to a lot of games, and you can certainly go to last night. Missing a call in the situations that they are at the level that they're at, it's not as if they're out there going, I'm trying to get this wrong, of course, or something like that. But you just these are professional athletes. These are also professional referees, and you can't mess it up right at the end. You know what I mean? It's like this. You got 1st and goal on the 5-yard line with a minute to go. You can't fumble the snap. Okay, if you're a professional football player, you can't do it. And sometimes it probably happens, and you go, "What in the world?" And you may not have a job. And guess what? It's the same for these referees. I mean, the referees are reviewed and they are assigned based on performance. Okay, it is a performance-based job they got, and the blown calls yesterday are going to hurt the assignments and the paycheck of the referees that missed them. But and I guess in situations, man, you have to be on it. Like, you can't do it. The thing that I find particularly frustrating about last night is they got the call wrong once, but it was the same call on the same guy doing the same thing again. That was clearly not the case. That's egregious, man. It really is.
Totally. I mean, boom boom plays, in or out, spur of the moment, a late hit, all those sorts of things.
Some of it's subjective.
It's more explainable of why you maybe got it wrong. That specific call is a very specific rule. You have to hit the guy in the face. He didn't hit him in the face. Like you said, the fact that it was the same player, Trey Flowers, doing the same thing. I mean, he was furious, and rightfully so.
Sure. Well, and I guess the one thing that suggests too is because you can't always have the right angle, referees have to take a little bit of an educated guess on what they think is going on if they can't see it. And you know that he couldn't see it. Why? Because it never happened. It appeared like it, but it wasn't the case. Anyway, easy for me to say in all my Packers gear, that's the way it goes. By the way, it was not the referee's fault when Matt Patricia rolled 12 dudes out for a field goal attempt that ended up being, without even trying, a first down for Green Bay that resulted in their first touchdown instead of a field goal that it should have been. So if you want to talk about where did 4 extra points come from in a 1-point win for the Green Bay Packers, you could start there as well. You want to crush the referees, that's fine. They deserve to be criticized in this sense for this. But also, to your point, Coulter, it's never the end of the thing. I mean, everybody's going to go back to the NFC Championship game and forget the game went to overtime. And Drew Brees threw an interception because a pass rush got home. And Greg Zuerlein banged a 1,000-yard field goal to win the thing. There's a lot that happened after, yes, an obviously blown pass interference call. But this is what it is, and you are starting to sway me on this. It's Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. By the way, want to update you. ALCS Game 3, the Astros are up 2-0 over the Yankees in the top of the fifth inning. We're going to bring as many games to you of these as we can. We will have the NLCS game on as soon as we're done. Game 4, and the Nats looking for a sweep, amazingly, of the St. Louis Cardinals. There's a couple of reasons. I won't get into some of the specifics why it wasn't. We were not able to have this one for you, but we're going to have as many games as these on as we can, obviously, in the championship, and we will have every single World Series game as well. So I want to make sure we get that out there. When it comes to the Green Bay Packers, Coulter, I told you I'm more optimistic after this game than I was about any other game, even though they played about as poorly as you can play. You know why? I saw finally the offense create opportunities. They played poorly because Aaron Jones can't catch a wide open ball that hits him in the hands as he's going over the goal line. They have a fifth-string wide receiver bobble the ball and kick it up in the air for an interception on the goal line. They had more Jimmy Graham dropping a football in his paws in the end zone. This is happening all over the place, okay? That obviously can't happen. You're not going to win games if that happens. But when it came to the play calling and the way that Aaron Rodgers was protected by that offensive line and the run game's success, all things considered, especially when you're down Devontae Adams and then down MVS and then down Geronimo Allison, I mean, they're looking for anybody to come out there and play football, particularly at the wide receiver spot. And yet the scheme that they had for that football game was dimed up. And Matt Patricia's supposed to be this big defensive guy, and I have been as sort of incredulous as anyone towards Matt LaFleur. And well, who is this guy who came out of the 26th ranked offense, a year ago, and he's, me, some 30-year-old who, what do you do deserves this? He outcoached Matt Patricia last night, hands down, he and the staff. And for the first time, this defense played really well throughout the course of the season in the main. They were dominant offensively in this game, but couldn't execute because they just didn't have the players to do it. But everything was there for them, and when they get guys back and work through the execution of this stuff, it made me really, really the needle pointed up for me on Green Bay and Matt LaFleur being there in the offense. And I thought finally I started to see something that you wanted to see, which was an uptick in the scheme and the play calling, which has been really what's held the Green Bay Packers back for the last 3 or 4 years. That and a terrible defense, which they obviously addressed in the offseason. And I mean, how good is Davius Smith? I mean, he is rolling right now, getting sacks and doing everything for this football team. Kenny Clark, you throw him in there, smash Amos, their back end, their cornerbacks, and Alexander and King. This is a good football team right now. They are not anywhere close to being, top of the NFL in terms of the way that they're playing, but they have the potential to be, which I didn't think they had before, and that does make me happy.
The Lions are better than people give them credit.
Yes, they are.
The Lions are pretty good, actually. Yep. I mean, I think that after watching what I watched last night, I've now watched the whole NFC North, obviously, because the Packers and the Bears are on frequently, and I watch the Vikings every week. Fan, yep. It's the best division in the NFL.
It is. It's really good. I mean, it's the most competitive for sure. And
it's the only division in the NFL that doesn't have a bad team.
Yeah.
Yep. Every other division has one bad team, at least.
One. Yeah.
And some, like the AFC East, has 2.5.
Yeah, 2.
2. Right.
They're really bad. The teams that are bad.
Right. That's why I said 2.5. Yeah. A couple things, though. First of all, I think that it's fascinating that the 3 teams in the NFC right now that are 5-1, one of them has done it with Drew Brees out and the New Orleans Saints, obviously. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and then I guess the San Francisco 49ers are out of nowhere. That's the one surprise.
Yeah, 5-1, yeah.
But the 3 5-1 teams, the Seattle Seahawks, the New Orleans Saints, and the Green Bay Packers. Saints have done it without Drew Brees, and although the Seahawks and the Packers are off to two of the better starts in the entire league, we're still not sure if they're good, if they're elite yet, right? They're both good, for sure.
Yeah.
But I still have question marks about the Packers. I still have question marks about the Seahawks, and I think a lot of it's been their schedule. But if you got Rodgers, you got a chance. I was texting you last night. Some of the throws he made last night were just insane. He is the most. I've watched Aaron Rodgers live, 50 times, 60 times in his career. So many times. And he's the only athlete I can think of where you never become numb to it. He makes you go, are you kidding me? Every time you watch him. That in itself is why he's so spectacular and why he's so fun to watch. But then I texted my brother, I said, I just wish he was different because I want to love him so much. And I just hate him. But I love watching him.
Yeah.
But my brother made a really good point. He said, whoever has been transcendently great that wasn't polarizing? So then we started talking about guys that are truly unbelievable, but also beloved. And there's very few you could ever think of. I think Walter Payton in his prime, but he had so many demons in the back closet that then, a lot, believe what you want to believe it, but a lot of his behind the scenes stuff contributed to his early death.
Well, the other thing, Michael Jordan is one. Michael Jordan has become more very polarizing to an extent now.
Right.
But when he was Air Jordan, he was the universal good.
Right, but I think everybody realizes now that so much of that was just a straight marketing ploy, and he was force-fed to the American public in a different version than what he actually is.
That is fine, but that's late. This is all well after the fact. During Michael Jordan being Michael Jordan, there was no other side.
Unless you love the Jazz.
Yeah.
I hated Michael Jordan when I was a kid.
Of course. But again,
but only just because he was tearing my heart out.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good one. Jerry Rice was another one that I came up with who was widely beloved, but almost everybody else who you can think of. It's a double-edged sword.
Drew Brees
right?
would be another one, although he's not to the level that like Tom Brady.
Drew Brees is such an everyman, right?
Yeah.
I think that's his appeal, and he's been so good, and his numbers speak for themselves and everything. But he's not that.
He's not a superstar the way that
he is, but there's some guys that have an element of genius to them, right? They have a sports genius. Kobe Bryant is a genius when it comes to the way he operates, and it's why he's so polarizing. Tiger Woods is another great example. When you are so maniacally driven to be the absolute greatest, and you can be, and you have the gifts to be, I think you're just an inherently tortured person, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But there's so many people like that. Barry Bonds, Tom Brady, like you said. On down the list, there's so many people that are like that. I thought it was an interesting thought because you'd be hard pressed to find greatness that is also beloved. You could find just a long list of guys that are polarizing at the very least.
I want to ask you about what happened last night at the end of this football game. Jamal Williams gets the ball. This is after the second hands to the face penalty. There's a minute and 10 seconds left, something like that. And Green Bay's down 2. And the Lions just clear the path to let him score. And he runs the 2 and sits it down. And first of all, the Packers were minus 3.5, and there is a lot of folks who laid the number yesterday that were very disappointed in that decision by Jamal Williams to go ahead and take a seat. It's impossible to say that it wasn't the right choice, given the fact that the Packers won the football game. And I understand, especially with a minute left, I'm a fan of this. It seems so tenuous to me in the NFL when you have an opportunity to take points and not take them, elect to not take them, and particularly when it's a touchdown. And I understand you're there on the 2, and I understand you got Mason Crosby, and you suck the time out of it. And again, in this instance, with 60 seconds or more left on the clock, I actually do believe it because Matt Stafford, he was very good last night, and you don't want to put your team in a spot like that if you don't have to, and they didn't have to. And yet, I'm just sitting here as a Packer fan going, we are losing the football game, and we don't have, and we still got the football and have to figure out a way to score some points. And they pulled it off, and they did it. What do you think about that? And this is not the first time this has ever happened, by the way. I mean, we've seen this a couple of times. It feels like you are messing with karma when you decide, no, we don't want the points now. We're going to keep going with this.
Because, like you said, it comes at such a premium, so you should just take the points when the points are made available, it seems to me. Because you never know what's going to happen, but you do know if you don't get those points, you're never going to get them back, and you might not get another chance to score in this league. I mean, it's living in a college football town and covered college football as prevalently as we do. I think your idea of what offense and scoring and success and all that is gets skewed to a certain extent sometimes because, like you were saying, 41-17, like that's not an NFL score. That never happens in the NFL. It only happens when the Patriots play the Dolphins, and even then it's hard to get to 41-17 in the league. Every game comes down to the last 8 minutes of the game. Every game, doesn't matter. No matter who is playing. And so I agree. I think you just got to take the points when the points are made available.
All right. Quick note, NFL side, the Los Angeles Rams, big trade today, send Marcus Peters to the Baltimore Ravens.
How many times has Marcus Peters gotten traded?
This is 2, I think. He's where did he start before? Philadelphia? I forget.
Kansas City.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kansas City. So Kansas City, and he goes in. Now, one reason is he's on the last year of his rookie deal. So presumably he's going to be an expensive asset from here on out, which is one reason, especially that Los Angeles, with all the guys that they are paying and are going to have to pay, I think this is as much a money move as anything. They get Kenny Young, a linebacker, and an undisclosed 2020 draft pick, although Chris Mortensen reporting that will be a 5th rounder. So a 5th rounder and Kenny Young for Marcus Peters. But this looks to me like a future money sort of drop, so to speak, to avoid having to pay a guy that you can't afford, and you do it now so that you can get something for him, a linebacker that you need for depth or whatever, and an extra pick, in the draft. Who knows what that turns into? But surprising. I mean, I'm always, especially teams that are or think they are competing for a Super Bowl, which the Rams certainly do, the last 3 games notwithstanding. This is not a team that's all of a sudden going, well, that's it, we're not going to be able to do it, kick out the tent pegs. But you got to build for now and for later in the NFL, and this is obviously a for later move, but a surprising one. And this is significant for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I think the Baltimore Ravens are one of the teams in the AFC that is really going to have a look at this. They're they are leading the NFL in rushing right now, which I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that fact, but that is true. So this is a really good football team that I think is clearly trying to make a run right now and say, you know what? Everybody's got to go through New England. We might as well take our shot, if they can. And also, they got to feel good about their division right now. Cleveland clearly not playing up to potential. Pittsburgh, without Ben Roethlisberger, man, Pittsburgh is in very tough shape, and they go as their quarterback goes ultimately, and it's not going to go well for them. And Cincinnati is one of the worst teams I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens have a chance, and they operate differently than almost every team in the AFC, and I think that gives them a chance because they can be both solid and different. And I think that when you're talking about how do you beat the Patriots, how do you beat the Texans, how do you beat some of these other teams that have elite, how do you beat the Chiefs? The Ravens can do it in a lot different fashion because they are so good at running the football, and they have. I mean, Lamar Jackson is on pace to break Michael Vick's single-season rushing record for a quarterback in a single season, and that element, if he can stay healthy, just makes you so hard to game plan for. And their offensive line is good, and they're dedicated to it, and they're still playing good defense too. So I think it's a good trade for the Ravens, and I do think that they think the time is now. They got to make a run.
Quick update for you, ALCS Game 3. The Houston Astros still up 2-0 over the Yankees, bottom of the 5th inning. 2 outs right now as they play in the 5th in New York. 2 home runs, the source of the runs for the Astros. Altuve and Josh Reddick, the 2 home runs for the Astros coming against Luis Severino in this baseball game. But still, obviously, a very competitive one. This this thing turned quickly in the bottom of the 11th inning with Carlos Correa in Game 2 to make it a 1-1 series. And this series has every opportunity, it seems to me, to be a long one, a 7-game type of series, and I hope it is, because I think this is as good as it gets. The World Series is the World Series, but I can't think of a matchup that is sexier right now than the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees. So they continue in the bottom of the 5th. We'll continue to keep you updated. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. The Montana Grizzlies play Sacramento State in Sacramento this weekend. We'll hear from head coach Bobby Houck about this matchup from his press conference yesterday right after this. Hey, look up. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's satellite internet. That's right. High-speed internet delivered from a satellite right to where you live. When you're beyond the reach of cable and fiber internet, look up Eagle Satellite is our community's authorized HughesNet retailer. With HughesNet, you'll have the fast speeds, unlimited data, and no hard data limits, and built-in Wi-Fi you need. Eagle Satellite has proudly helped our community get online for 39 years, and this year they want to help you get connected too. For a limited time, you can get free standard installation when you order HughesNet. Call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999 and see for yourself why HughesNet is America's #1 choice for satellite internet. That's Eagle Satellite, 406-728-9999. Eagle Satellite and HughesNet, proudly connecting our community.
Hey folks, Ryan Tootell here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up.
There's 2 things that can really stress a person out. That's hunger and not enough time. Town Pump can help you out with both. They've got your meal waiting for you. 4-piece chicken and JoJo's with ranch, only $5.99. And Modelo 12-pack cans, $11.99. Stop by Town Pump today.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The Big Sky Conference continues putting 5 teams in the weekly FCS Stats Top 25 poll. But this week, the national poll features a new squad. For the first time since 2011, the Sacramento State Hornets are in the top 25 after defeating number 22 Eastern Washington and number 6 Montana State in consecutive weeks. The Hornets break into the poll at number 15. The 34-21 win in Bozeman last weekend served as Sac State's first at Bobcat Stadium since 1991. The number 6 ranking for MSU meant that the win was the highest-ranked opponent Sac State has ever defeated.
Two-time reigning Big Sky champion Weber State held steady at number 4 after a 29-14 win over in-state rival Southern Utah. Montana moved up 3 spots to number 5 despite having a bye last week, as 4 teams in the top 10 and 11 in the top 25 lost last week. Montana State was one of those, and they fell, dropping 6 spots to number 12. A 48-24 win by UC Davis helped the Aggies snap a 3-game losing streak and moved from 24 to 22 this week.
In Bozeman last weekend, Sac State quarterback Kevin Thompson put on a clinic. The senior piled up 334 yards of total offense and 5 total touchdowns to earn Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week honors. The former UNLV transfer, who was recruited to Vegas by current Grizz head coach Bobby Hauck, will lead the Hornets against the Grizz Saturday night.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
West Coast night game. I'm into it. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway, Missoula Highway 83, and Sealy online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find Coulter and me on Twitter at Skyline Sports MT, at Gus Tootell, and also follow the station on Twitter, and Instagram at 1029 ESPN. How about that? 1029 ESPN, the handle for the show, the station, the social meds, all of that. Bottom of the 5th comes to a close. We head to the top of the 6th, still 2-0. Houston, the Yankees could not get anything going. Luis Severino still on the mound for the New York Yankees in Game 3 of the ALCS. Coulter, Bobby Hauck was at the press conference yesterday. Talked about Sacramento State, the upcoming opponent. We'll just play this for you quickly. Here's what he had to say in kind of his opening remarks about facing a very good Hornets team.
You know, Sacramento State's a very hot team right now. They're playing well. They're playing well in all 3 phases of the game. And, you know, they're statistically impressive. They've done a lot of good things, obviously. Stringing together a few wins is healthy in terms of your program. So we've got a team that's on a roll right now that we've got to go down and try to beat on their home field.
You said for the last few weeks, look out for this Sac State team. So
yeah.
What caught your eye from them, you know, multiple weeks ago as far as them being good?
Well, now that it's a battery of 6 games rather than just some early ones, catching a glimpse of them, you know, we're a week into it now. We've been watching them. But, you know, Kevin Thompson, who we're very familiar with, having recruited him to UNLV, he's a 6th-year junior quarterback playing really well. And the offensive line's doing a good job. The running back, Dotson, is terrific. I think he may be the best running back in the league. I've got a really high opinion of him. On defense, you know, Craig Paulson has their D-line. It's a team that's playing with a lot of confidence, and they should be.
There you go, Bobby Hauck from yesterday. Can use that as a slight plug for us. Andy Thompson, defensive coordinator for Sacramento State, former Grizz, former longtime DC for Jerome Sowers at Northern Arizona. He joins us for this week's ESPN Roundtable. So happy to have Andy Thompson on. I think you'll learn a lot about him, but also about Sacramento State. This is his first year there. Troy Taylor, his first year there, the new staff, and they're playing really, really good football right now. So that will be on tomorrow's show, and then again Thursday at noon. So look for that. It'll be a really good interview with Andy Thompson. But Coulter, when you hear what Bobby Hauck's got to say, you know, kind of the standard, but he did take a little bit of time to go through, you know, a little bit with a little bit more specificity about this team and exactly what they're up to. When Bobby, let me say it like this. My guess is, and I'm just trying to sort of, you know, figure this out as we go, but Bobby Hauck's going to be confident against everybody. But if it's a team that he thinks that Montana's going to handle pretty well, he's usually a little more forthcoming with the praise. And if it's a team that he thinks that he's going to have to go in there and go to battle with, it's pretty businesslike from Bobby Houck in these press conferences, and that is the impression that I got from him yesterday. And in re-listening to this now, that this is, you take every opponent seriously, but there's teams that are better than other teams, and this is one of those. Sacramento State. We watched them firsthand on Saturday, and Coach Houck, I think, is well aware of the challenge that is going to be posed by this Hornet team.
And the narrative of the Sac State program over the last handful of years, I mean, Marshall Spurbeck actually had that thing going. They were on the verge of a breakthrough, and then they almost had one in 2014. That was probably their best ever Division I team. They were a game away from making the playoffs, and they had all sorts of great playmakers. I mean, Garrett Saffron was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, Marshall Spurbeck's last 4 years, they had 3 6-5 records and then a 4-7 in there. So they were, and this is all based on the state of your program. Where do you fit into the league? Going 6-5, 3 out of 4 years if you're Montana or Montana State ain't good enough. If you're Eastern Washington, it ain't good enough. That's great for Sac State at that point in their program. And then they had the 7-win season in 2014, and they had playmakers across the board, from Saffron playing quarterback to DeAndre Carter, who's now in the NFL, to Jordan Robinson, who's a great running back. On defense, they had Darnell Sankey, who now plays for the Houston Texans. But they had dudes. They had legitimate dudes. And if it wasn't for the 59-56 loss in one of the craziest games I've ever covered to Montana State, when Montana State would just decided, we don't care about defense, we're going to score 1,000,000 points. And they had the 2-week trip through California where they scored 59 and 77 and barely hung on to win both those games. like at UC Davis, Tim Cramsey is begging Rob Ash to just get one stop so he could take Dakota Prukop out of the game. He's like, Rob, I'm going to score 100 points if you don't figure out how to get a stop on the other side. It was a wild time at Montana State. That said, Sac State, that team was really good. And then they had a lot of high expectations that they could continue to climb the Big Sky ladder. And then Marshall Spurbeck got in hot water, and they had a self-reported NCAA violation that resulted in him getting fired. And no one really knows what actually happened because no one really covers that program. So no one really dove into it. He kind of just got fired, and they said it was because of violations. And I don't really know the details. It was weird. Yeah. But he had hired Jody Sears as his defensive coordinator. And that first year, Sears, installing a new defense after he was promoted to interim head coach, decided to just roll with a whole bunch of young defensive players. And I think that they ended up starting 8 or 9 freshmen that year on defense. And they took their lumps, but then they started to get better. And I think that probably the low point of the entire program under that rebuild was when they came to Missoula and they were starting a true freshman at quarterback in Nate Ketteringham. They were starting 8 or 9 freshmen on defense. And they came to Missoula, and Bob Stitt's Grizzlies just ran them straight out of town. They won 67-7, one of the biggest beatdowns I've ever watched in a conference game. But so many of those dudes are still there. They're still on the team years later, and now they're 4th, 5th, and even in George Obina's case, 6th-year senior. In Kevin Thompson's case, a 6-year junior. Right. He's going to have a 7th year next year. So these guys are, not only are they veteran, not only have they been and are still talented, but they've also seen the roller coaster of the whole thing. Come to play for a program that's good, the coach is out, now all of a sudden you're playing in a rebuild, but you have confidence you're going to get it back. Yes. And then they have the breakthrough 2 years ago. Jody Sears of the Big Sky Conference. How about the roller coaster of Jody Sears? They're terrible. He inherits a program that's good. He bottoms it out through a rebuilding effort. 2 years later, they're 7-4. He's the Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year. He gets a contract extension, and then the athletic director, Mark Orr, comes in his second year and says, no. After last year, with a year that was just decimated by injuries, George Obina's out, Darren Choates is out, Manoa Pearson, their stud inside linebacker, is out. On down the line, Andre Lindsey, their best receiver, Jalen Ratliff, their second best receiver, Kevin Thompson, their quarterback, they're all out. They go 0-7 in league play. Jody Sears is fired. The silver lining is then that allowed them to go get Troy Taylor, which I think is an absolute perfect fit for them because he's an innovative offensive mind who knows the area. He's a guy that has been coveted at the college level, and he's never really wanted to make the jump until he finally did. And now Sac State's going to bear the fruit of him becoming a first-time head coach. But that's all to say that there's so many different reasons why you're bad at the FCS level, particularly in the Big Sky, and there's so many different reasons why you could and should be good. And I think that everybody that's covered the Big Sky and followed the Big Sky has always thought that the 3 sleeping giants outside of UC Davis, because they're a new addition to the league, but the 3 sleeping giants in the league, have always been Northern Arizona, Portland State, and Sac State because they're close or in big metropolitan areas. They're giant schools. I mean, Northern Arizona has 31,000 students. Sac State, I think, is the largest Cal State school in the Cal State system. There's a lot of UC schools that are bigger, UCLA, all those schools. But as far as the Cal State Sacramento, Cal State Irvine, the Cal State system, I believe Sacramento State is the largest university in that system. Portland State is the largest university in the state of Oregon. It is bigger than Oregon and Oregon State, if you believe it. So those schools have a ton of potential just because that's a ton of students. It's a ton of alumni you can tap into. But no one's ever really been able to truly hone it in. We'll see if Troy Taylor's the guy, but it's not for a lack of athlete that Sac State has been middle of the road. It's been for lack of continuity, lack of team, lack of locker room chemistry, all the things that are so elusive for programs that haven't always had it. We'll see if these guys can lock it in, but right now they're on a pretty good roll. I mean, I think everybody looked at Sac State's schedule, combined with the fact that they went 0-7 in league play last year.
Good luck.
Vote them last.
Yeah.
Which we all did. And now here they are. They already took out two of the teams that we thought we were going to be two of the better teams in the league.
Yeah.
So it's a prove-it game for Sac State. I'll tell you this. If they win on Saturday, I mean, how much confidence can you possibly get if you beat – I mean, I would love to look back through the league. You'd be hard-pressed to find a team that had to play Montana, Eastern Washington, Montana State, and Montana in consecutive weeks. But if you could find one, I guarantee you'd be hard-pressed to find one that would beat all three.
Oh, I mean –
at least in the modern era.
Yes.
So if they win, man, that's a huge win. And so I think the Bobby Hauck's assessment is correct. They are very good, and the Grizz need to be on high alert because this is a team that is not only talented but red hot, and they're believing right now.
We will talk more about this game later on in the show. We will specifically look at the quarterbacks, Kevin Thompson along with Dalton Sneed, and kind of overlay these two guys because if you're looking for similar styles, I think these are probably the two most similar quarterbacks in the league, certainly the most similar to each other in the league. Barrier, who's a tremendous runner of the football, probably better runner than anybody else at the quarterback spot, but he's not as good a thrower as these guys are, probably. But in any case, just what they look like, the way they go about it, these two are. I mean, you can see why Bobby Hauck recruited them both, I guess is what I would say, because you can see what they bring to the game, and it's going to be fun to watch them go up against each other. So we'll hear from Bobby Hauck about Kevin Thompson and more about the quarterbacks in general in the matchup this weekend at the top of the next hour. Garrett Cole struck out two of the last three batters in the bottom of the sixth inning. He's still going strong for the Houston Astros as the Yankees are going down in order at the end of the sixth inning. ALCS Game 3, 2-0 Astros to score there. Coulter, it's always good to make your grill taste great, and the best way to make it taste as good as it can taste is to use Alpine Touch. Shoto, shout out. Tell them about it.
Think they'd let you take this on the plane?
Oh, yeah.
If you go to Sacramento, you should get one of these and take it down there because you'd be a hit at the tailgates.
Oh, for sure.
Sac State's actually been getting some more people, too. I mean, granted, it's not crazy, but they're averaging 8,700 fans a game, and they're coming off a win over Montana State, so maybe they have a good crowd down there. There's a couple thousand Grizz fans that are probably going to go down there.
Hey, opportunity to get to Northern Colorado or Northern California in October.
That's right. And so if you're a Grizz fan, or if you're not, if you're going to Sacramento, maybe take one of these with you. And if you're just staying at home, this is good. This is great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually excited. We were thinking about maybe driving down there, but I'm excited to actually just have a day where I just sit there, watch games.
Yep.
The 6 p.m. kickoff is going to be great. I'm going to be grilling.
7
p.m. here, right?
6 Pacific.
So I'm going to start grilling my stuff. I'm going to watch some Big Ten in the morning, Alpine Touch. I'm going to watch some Big Sky in the afternoon, Alpine Touch. I'm going to watch the Grizz at night, Alpine Touch. I might have 3 different steaks with Alpine Touch on it. And then I might not come to work on Saturday or on Monday because I might still be asleep. But regardless, Alpine Touch right here, this big 4 big mountain flavors right here. You can pick whatever Alpine Touches you want to put in here. Handy little carrying case, $19.99 at alpinetouch.com. And if you plug in the promo code ESPN10 and get 10% off your order. This one specifically right here has an all-purpose, a pepper blend, a hickory smoked, and a chili sublime. I love the pepper blend. That's a good one. Anything, stew, steak, veggies, all good. $19.99 online, alpinetouch.com. But if you give us a call right now, 329-1899, We got one of these for you. We'll ship it straight to your doorstep. Just give David your name and address. It'll be arriving to you in no time. Every season's grilling season, Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
We've combined quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's fall comfort food menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
The Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 10/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s, subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Jayco and Rangish Brothers end of the year clearance event is going on now. Our entire lot is on sale, so if you've been waiting for a smoking hot deal on fifth wheels, campers, toy haulers, and motorhomes, there is no better time to buy than now. Save big on a Jayco J-Flight Bunkhouse SLX with payments as low as $99 per month OAC. Or get huge savings on a 2019 Jayco Eagle fifth wheel, starting at only $28,750. Don't miss our final sales event of the year. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
It's a rite of passage, that first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tootell here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain, they still need to get to work, they need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance company so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
ALCS Game 3 update. George Springer has just walked a leadoff walk to start the 7th inning. The Houston Astros up 2-0 on the New York Yankees. Now have 1 on and no out. Adam Ottavino is pitching now for the Yankees. It was Tommy Canley, in fact, who pitched for the Yanks in the 6th inning, and now Ottavino is here going in the 7th. But just gave up a leadoff walk after a full count to George Springer. So, the Houston Astros are in business, up 2-0, and with Garrett Cole still rolling. He is up into the 100-pitch mark at this point, so we'll see if he comes back out for the bottom of the 7th inning. Jose Altuve up to the dish. It is Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studio. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Happy to be with you on ESPN and SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Coulter, it's time for our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmer State Bank. Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. And our buddy Anthony Knockreiner putting out the all-class football poll each and every week. what do you call this? The Montana Media Poll?
Treasure State Media Poll.
Right, Treasure State. Yes, of course it is. In any case, this I found to be interesting because in AA, we've had a little switcheroo at the top. Butte at 7-0 finds themselves on the top, number one overall, overtaking Billings West, even though Billings West has not lost a game still. They're 6-0, but I think people have been just so impressed with Butte, the way that they've been playing and really rolling people, and they probably have the best win of those two over Sentinel on the road. And so you get that 19 first place votes to Butte and 9 to Billings West, still 1-2. And look, at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to play one another, and it'll settle itself. But for right now, those are 1-2. Sentinel now 6-1 after their city championship, their big win. I mean, they beat Hellgate handily, 44-7. They're number 3. Bozeman and Helena Capital round out the top 5.
We voted Butte number 1 this week on the strength of that win over Sentinel. For sure, but Butte also took apart Helena Capital 56-38. I mean, this Butte team, Tommy Malott has got this thing humming along. They are just destroying people offensively. I mean, they have 46 against Belgrade, 52 against CMR, 35 against Helena, 55 against Glacier, 39 against a Sentinel team that allowed 1 first down in the first half against Hellgate on Friday, and they allowed 1 first down in the first half against Big Sky the week before. They allowed 2 total touchdowns in their 2 city championship games, and one of those was a defensive touchdown. So this Sentinel defense is the real deal, and Butte still scored 39 on them. And in the last 2 weeks, they've gone 56 points against Capital, and then they went 38-0 over Flathead. To me, they've just been mowing through people. No one can stop this Butte offense. Ari Gray, since he took over, has run this really slick version of the air raid. Yeah. And Dallas Cook broke all the Montana passing records when they won the state title, 2012, 2013. And the thing that they haven't had is a guy who can also run it. So now they're running zone read stuff within the scope of this air raid RPO offense. Good luck when you have an athlete like Tommy Malott running the show.
It's interesting in the NBA. We talk about this all the time, but if you have one elite player, the number of wins, quote unquote, that they're going to account for is just so much greater because they have so much more of an influence over the game. Whereas in the NFL, you got to have everybody, there. But at this level, at the high school level, even in football, when you got 22 guys, and look, it's 40 guys, all right? We know if you have one guy who is that much better than everybody else, let's put it like this. In the NFL, nobody is going to be that much better than anybody else because they're all pros. Okay, right. But in high school, especially rural high school, if you have a guy who is, a Division I scholarship type of player, particularly as a quarterback, what that means to your team and what you can then do is remarkable. And you put a couple pieces around there, and you can all of a sudden be, a middle or bottom of the pack team. This kid steps in there. One dude changes the entire program, for the time that he's there. And Tommy Malott is proving that in Butte right now.
Yeah, and he's a 4-year starter. He's a tremendous athlete. And not only is he electric and explosive, but he's also taking care of the ball. He's got 19 touchdown passes and 1 pick, according to Max Preps. I actually think that those might be a little bit inaccurate numbers. I know he's only got the 1 pick. That one is accurate. He might even have more touchdown passes than that.
Right.
And he also is averaging 8.1 yards per carry. He got 670 yards rushing. He's had 3 100-yard games. He's averaging 95.5 yards per game on the ground, and he's got 7 rushing touchdowns as well. He's not just this is not just a one-trick pony, though.
Right.
I mean, Kobe Moreno, their fullback, he's one of the toughest players in AA. He had a 39-carry game earlier this year at that combine that Dane Fletcher hosted this last summer, former Montana State and New England Patriots linebacker. The Moreno kid banged out like 24 or 25 reps on the bench. That's unbelievable for a high school kid.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody. You're not finding any high school kid anywhere.
And you look, man, you still got to have some guys that can do it around there. But just when you add that one elite player, especially at quarterback, it makes quite a difference. We'll look at the other conferences or the other classifications here in just a moment. Quick update though: they put on the hit and run. Houston does with Altuve, and he sneaks a single through. So now runners at first and third, and Zach Brighton out as the new pitcher for the Yankees. Runners at the corners, no outs in the top of the 7th inning, and it's danger zone time for the New York Yankees because they're already down 2-0 in this baseball game. Bradley at the dish for Houston. Okay.
It's Cameron Moreno. Sorry, Kobe Moreno is his twin brother. Sorry, I got those two mixed up. Cameron Moreno, though, he's averaging 114 yards per game on the ground. He's had 11 rushing touchdowns as well. So this Butte offense operating at a high level. The defense is operating at a high level. we talked all about just the dwindling numbers across Montana high school football. It's been too bad. We've seen some games like up on the High Line that had to get canceled. Haver-Glendive got canceled the other week. There's been games where Park High, at Livingston, they had to cancel
Shut
football
down the season. Yeah,
it's too bad, and they're struggling with numbers in Missoula as well. I mean, I know that all three of the Missoula coaches have expressed to us the fact that they have less than 50 guys that are sophomores through seniors out. I'm looking at this Butte High roster; they got 113 guys listed. So football's a thing right now in Butte, and that's cool. There's no better town in Montana where if you got people bought in and you're winning, I bet you those boys are walking around feeling pretty good about themselves right now. I mean, this is the first 7-0 start at Butte High School since 1991. So this is a very impressive deal, and it's cool that there is this sort of story happening in the mining city this year.
I drove through Butte on Friday night on my way out to Bozeman last weekend, Coulter, and it's so sweet, man, to see Ranch Stadium lit up on the side of the hill. I mean, the whole city just rises up, where Missoula, Bozeman, they sit in the valley. They sit down on the ground. Butte is built on the side of the dang mountain, and you can see both the stadiums and then Montana Tech as well sitting there lit up, and it was just like, man, this is sweet. It's going on in Butte, man. I'm telling you what. Tootell Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, quickly, I know we got to get out, but Class A, interesting. Hamilton back on top. They lost to Dillon, but Dillon is there at 6-1 as well. Both of these teams in the top three, but Hamilton number 1, Dillon number 3, even though Dillon holds the head-to-head over Hamilton. Miles City, by the way, is 6-0 is at number 2. Frenchtown also at 6-1 at 4, and Laurel at number 5. Miles City, the only undefeated team in Class A.
Hamilton's got the best player.
Yeah.
And that's going to get you really far.
And happens to be a quarterback again.
Cameron Rostad. I mean, the thing that's been revelatory about this year is Cameron Rostad's shown that Carson Rostad.
We got our Camerons and our Carsons
has shown that he can run the football too. He's not just a strong-arm kid. He can run it too. I mean, he's given about 100 rushing yards a game. If he can run it like that with his ability to throw it, unstoppable at the Class A level.
Right. All right, very good. That has been our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmer State Bank. Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. You can also check them out online, farmersebank.com. Get your MyCard app. Shut your debit card off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. Turn it back on again whenever you find it, thanks to Farmers State Bank. Bases loaded. Still no runs across for Houston and 1 out. Huge spot. Tell you how it develops. And we'll get into Greg Bell. Talk to us about the Seattle Seahawks, all right after this.
Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, pump it up.
There's nothing that goes better together than a Johnsonville Big Dog and an ice-cold beer. Right now in the Town Pump Deli, Johnsonville Big Dogs are only $1.79, and Keystone 15 packs $8.88. Town Pump, right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Lithia Ford of Missoula is proud to announce the arrival of the all-new 2019 Ford Ranger. The 2019 Ford Ranger features best-in-class towing of up to 7,500 pounds, best-in-class payload over 1,800 pounds, and is rated the most fuel-efficient gas-powered pickup in America. If you're in the market for a mid-size pickup, look no further than the all-new Ford Ranger. Get yours today at Lithia Ford of Missoula.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The Big Sky Conference continues putting 5 teams in the weekly FCS Stats Top 25 poll, but this week the national poll features a new squad. For the first time since 2011, the Sacramento State Hornets are in the top 25 after defeating the number 22 Eastern Washington Eagles and number 6 Montana State in consecutive weeks. The Hornets break into the poll at number 15. The 34-21 win in Bozeman last weekend served as Sac State's first at Bobcat Stadium since 1991, and the number 6 ranking from MSU meant the win was the highest-ranked opponent Sac State has ever defeated.
Two-time reigning Big Sky champion Weber State held steady at number 4 after a 29-14 win over in-state rival Southern Utah. Montana moved up 3 spots to number 5 despite having a bye last week, as 4 teams in the top 10 and 11 in the top 25 fell last week. Montana State was one of those that fell, dropping 6 spots to number 12. A 48-24 win by UC Davis helped the Aggies snap a 3-game losing streak and moved UC Davis from number 24 to number 22.
In Bozeman last weekend, Sac State quarterback Kevin Thompson put on a clinic. The senior piled up 334 yards of total offense and 5 total touchdowns to earn Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Week. The former UNLV transfer, who was recruited to Vegas by current Grizz head coach Bobby Houck, will lead the Hornets against the Grizz in Sacramento Saturday night.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Zach Brighton throws a bit of a wild pitch. Doesn't get all the way to the backstop. Jose Altuve held at third. Next pitch, a full wild pitch. And Jose Altuve scores from third, making it 3-0 Houston. And then a sacrifice fly on the next pitch, 4-0 Astros. The Yankees have gotten out of the 7th inning, but they are now down 4-0 as they head for the bottom of the 7th. And it is those 2 runs huge, obviously, for Houston, and a win in the first game in New York, putting them right where they want to be, up 2-1 if it were to change. But there's still a lot of baseball to be played. Keep you updated. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify and all the places that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can get Tootell Nuanez podcast. It's there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. If you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. And we like to do this every Monday. Scheduling, because of travel for Greg Bell, we had to move it to today. But Greg Bell covers the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News Tribune. He's great. He's going to join us every week to break down the week that was and going forward for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, Seattle, a great game against the Cleveland Browns, a game that they were behind in, came back and won. So here you go. Enjoy. We go now to the Rangich Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in a man who covers the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News Tribune, Greg Bell, joining us here to talk about the Seahawks versus the Cleveland Browns. You were at this game in Cleveland. A big win for Seattle, and Seattle only plays close games, it seems like, right, Greg? So it doesn't really matter if it's a good team, bad team, whatever. They're always going to play close, but they're now 5-1 on the season, and a win against a very talented, though still trying to find themselves, Cleveland team. What did you think about the game in general on Sunday?
Well, I thought it was the Seahawks veterans showing up, and their longest tenured players won them the game. Russell Wilson, brilliant again, another 100-plus passer rating game, 23 of 33, 295. He is the fourth player in NFL history to have a 100-plus passer rating in each of his first 6 games. Brady Rogers and Carson Palmer are the others. Then when it was 20-6, they were down in one play into the second quarter. Bobby Wagner, the all-pro middle linebacker, of course, got the defense together and basically gave them a buck-up talk and saying, get with this. This is not who we are. But schematically, he made the point of quit freelancing. There were guys that were overrunning their gaps. The run fits weren't fitting because they were getting nosy. Nick Chubb went on a 60-plus yard run because of guys out of position. Just play your play, do your job, and let's be better. And the guys said that helped. The defense settled down after Wagner got them together. The end of the game, when they needed a drive for points, it was Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson again, almost unspoken, 2 straight completions on improvisational plays that got him to the goal line, and then Chris Carson put it in. And then finally, KJ Wright, the longest tenured Seahawk of them all, with the interception on the Baker Mayfield pass off Hilliard, the receiver's hands in the flat that pretty much clinched the game. The Seahawks ran the clock out from there. So as young as they are, as changed as they are, Sunday in Cleveland was an example of the oldest Seahawks leading them to win.
Cleveland going through their struggles again this year, but always a tough place to play. After seeing the Browns live and in person, is that a quality win for the Seahawks? And what did you just think of just their ability to get it done once again?
Road wins in the NFL are important in quality. Anyway.
True.
And, yes, that is a talented team that's not playing to their talent in Cleveland right now. Baker Mayfield made some plays. His receivers should have caught balls for him, frankly. Odell Beckham, as good as he ended up being, with 6 catches and that really acrobatic catch on the sideline, that he's dropped 3 passes. I mentioned the interception off of Hilliard's hands. There were plays to be made there for the Browns. They just didn't make them. And I think they're very talented. Their defensive front is an attacking one. Myles Garrett, 2 sacks against George Fant and one up the middle when Wilson ran into him. It's just a Browns team that it seems the Seahawks caught at a good time. They came out like the Seahawks thought they would and punched them in the mouth, according to Bobby Wagner's words. And that was after being embarrassed on Monday Night Football in San Francisco. So the Seahawks, if you can withstand somebody's best punch in the early part of the game and fall behind by 2 scores on the road and still win, absolutely, that's a quality win.
Greg Bell joining us. He covers the Seahawks for the Tacoma News Tribune, at GBellSeattle on Twitter. If you're looking to follow him, joins us each week to go over the game that was for the Seattle Seahawks. And right now, I mean, early in the season, but through the first 6 weeks, I mean, is there anybody playing better than Russell Wilson? I mean, to me, he is the MVP of the NFL as of right now. Do you see that the same way?
Well, I don't get into MVP talk in October. There's 10 more games still to play, and there are a lot of players who look good in September and October, but games in December are the ones that determine that. And the teams that win the division and go on to the playoffs tend to have the MVP players. But for right now, he's the best player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, through 6 games, though. I mean, there's nobody better than Russ, right?
No. And 17 touchdowns, 3 running, 14 passing, and no interceptions. As I mentioned, the passer ratings over 100 every game. He is such command. He has more command of the offense than his play caller does. Brian Schottenheimer here only at the beginning of his second year with the Seahawks. Wilson's mastery of offense makes him so comfortable to change plays at the line, to change in the middle of a play. And it's where his poise comes from. He's always had that, but now he has such deep experience and knowledge of what Carroll and Schottenheimer want him to do that it's almost a natural poise that he has and confidence he has. Sunday's helmet speaker went out, and it was in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. And so on his own, he improvisationally just said, I'm calling all the plays, and we're going to no huddle. And he went into 2-minute mode, and they went 7 plays, 58 yards right down the field. Jerron Brown's second touchdown, and they took the lead for the first time in the game. A lot of fans say Wilson should do that all the time.
Just take it out, right.
Wilson said he knows the playbook, he knows the game planning so intricately that he can do that. and he knows what Schottenheimer probably would have called anyway. That's just one example of the mastery that he has. The bottom line is the Seahawks guys have the best player on the planet at the most important position on the field in every game right now. And that's the decisive advantage they have. No matter the offensive line injury issues, the pass rush isn't getting home, penalties, the fumbles, the 1st and 20, all of that aside, they have the best player at the most important position in the sport, and that's why they're 5-1.
It's fascinating evolution for a guy who's been so good for so long to then take it to this next level. Now here, 7 years into his career, 8 years into his career. Is there anything you can point to as to why?
Well, I just mentioned it. He has an innate sense of what the Seahawks, Carroll in particular, wants to do. He's risk-averse with the ball. He's not a guy that usually throws the ball up into traffic and tries to get his guy to make a play. You have to be open, and otherwise he's going to take off and run for 8 yards instead of throwing a risky pass. He has the ability to escape pressure that instead of just throwing it away, he can get the 6 or 8 yard scramble. And that extends drives. Instead of 2nd and 10, it's 2nd and 4. It's plays like that make him a different kind of quarterback. Now, the Seahawks are going to get one Sunday and to Lamar Jackson, who's much different than anybody they've played this year either. But the multidimensional factor, the fact that he's so hard to defend, you take one thing away from him, he'll go find another. And it's just his mastery of the overall program. And if you know as a quarterback, if you know your offense better than your play caller does, you probably have an innate sense of what to do at the right place at the right time. And that's what Russell Wilson is right now. It's almost funny to say, but he's becoming a bargain at $140 million for the Seahawks.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, he's the guy that's pushing it the other direction. Everybody wonders when the market's going to break, at the price point. And right now, Russell's proven that it hasn't reached that mark if you can get that type of production out of the position. Greg Bell joining us, beat writer for the Seattle Seahawks for the Tacoma News-Tribune. And Greg, especially here in Montana, but I know for Seattle fans everywhere, they're very, very disappointed to see Will Dissly go down with the injury and the Achilles on Sunday. Two-part question for you. First of all, how big a loss is that for Seattle with the production that he had? And then secondly, can Luke Wilson fill that void, or are they going to really, not really have that as part of their offense? Now, what do you see going forward?
Well, we're not supposed to root, and I'm not from Seattle originally, so I don't have a huge rooting interest in the Seahawks, but I'm rooting for Will Dissly.
Yeah.
And from what he's gone through, I don't have to tell the people in Montana, your listeners, what he went through to get back to where he was, and now he's got to start all over and do it again. Pete Carroll said that in the locker room in Cleveland about an hour after the injury, he was absolutely amazed at how positive Will Dissly was. And how saying, I'm going to attack this again just like I did last time. I'll be back in 2020. I'll be fine. Count on me. Because Carroll couldn't believe it. And if you're impressing Pete Carroll with your positive vibe, you're doing something.
The most optimistic guy on earth, right? Yeah.
Right. And he was wowed by how Dissly, this was an hour after the injury, after we found out he was done for the year again. Think about that. How much he knows more than anybody on that team what's staring in front of him right now.
Right.
And the 12 months of rehab and the lonely days where you're not even close to playing. And while everybody else is basically in their off season, you're in the training room in Seattle with trainers trying to make your foot flex again. And you're basically going to have to teach yourself to walk again. A non-contact injury, that was sickening to watch. It was right in front of me at the press box. It made me ill to actually see his foot go the way it did. And everyone, the medical staff, the way the doctor ran out, all knew it was a serious injury exactly when it happened. Just feel for the guy, and he deserves better, and he's the kind of guy that's going to kill the rehab coming back. And I would not be surprised at all if he was where he was when he left. 6 touchdown catches in 9 games. Russell Wilson's trust in him is just supernatural for how inexperienced he is. You guys, as you know, this is a former defensive tackle.
Right.
At the University of Washington, schooling NFL linebackers, safeties, and cornerbacks for touchdowns in the NFL. He still leads the Seahawks with 4 touchdown catches. He will go to IR this week, leading the team in touchdown catches. They didn't envision that when they drafted him last year. No, Luke Wilson's not going to replace him. Nobody on the roster is going to replace him, frankly. It's crazy to say that about a guy 10 games into his career, but that's how close he had already become with Will Dissly and Russell Wilson. What they have in 2 weeks, though, is Ed Dixon eligible to come off of injured reserve. He was starting tight end last year. He had knee surgery in August. Carroll's not sure if Ed Dixon is ready to come back physically yet, but in 2 weeks he would be eligible to. So in the meantime, I expect a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets to offset the fact they have only 2 tight ends on the roster right now, Luke Wilson and Jacob Hollister, the practice squad promotee from Friday, who made his debut in Cleveland. But there will not be replacing Will Disley. That's how uniquely skilled he had become in the offense already.
So often when you have guys that are maybe converted guys like Will Disley who didn't play much offense in college, or guys that are lower round draft picks like he was as a 4th round guy, when you get 2 different catastrophic injuries, sometimes it can just be the writing on the wall at the end. But as we know, Will Disley is going to work hard to get back. But do you feel like his spot in the organization is solidified despite the fact that he has only appeared in 10 games?
No, absolutely. They, like I said, they have been blown away both by his production on the field and his attitude. And those coaches aren't stupid. They see the trust that Wilson has entrusted in Disley, the work they've done off the field, the Bible study they share, the talks they have outside of football. He is absolutely an asset to the offense. He's under contract for 2 more years. There's a lot for him to do before he gets back on the field. But again, they've already seen that he's, as Carroll said yesterday, that he's going to beat the timetables like he did with the patellar rupture. And it's just a shame a guy who is having as good of an early career is having his season cut short after a month and a half again.
Greg, we'll get you out of here on this. Just a quick look forward to the Ravens this weekend. If somebody wanted to play devil's advocate, which I'm happy to, you can look at the Seahawks schedule up to this point and see a lot of close wins over some not very good teams and some wins over some teams that aren't playing to their potential. And the one loss maybe to the best team they played was the Saints. How big a game is this Ravens game this weekend with what we think is a pretty solid team, and obviously the return of Earl Thomas to the Pacific Northwest?
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, Earl Thomas. Remember that guy?
Right.
That's no small factor either. This is a challenge for them. The Ravens run it better than anybody in the league. They're what the Seahawks want to be still. And rushing, Lamar Jackson is a quarterback they haven't faced in years. They run a 100-yard rusher. I think he led the NFL in all rushers this past weekend, and when he beat the Bengals. He's on a pace to have break Mike Vick's record for rushing for a quarterback in a single season. The Ravens are on pace to obliterate the NFL record for rushing yards in a season. Number 1 ranked offense, 450 yards a game, 30-plus points a game. This is a challenge that defense has not faced this year. I don't think their run defense, the Seahawks, have been tested yet. Their numbers are good because the teams they've played have thrown the ball more. And they were barely tested at all in Cleveland again in the second half once the Browns decided to throw the ball a lot more than I thought Freddie Kitchens should have. They should have stuck with Nick Chubb, and the Seahawks would have had a hard time winning that game. They're going to come at them, the Ravens are, with the run. An untested, unproven run defense. The Seahawks get Darren Reed back this week from suspension, the defensive tackle, and that will help. But, it's a big game in the sense that the 49ers are going to be in Washington playing the 1-5 Redskins at the same time on Sunday, actually earlier on Sunday. And there's a real good chance, a strong chance, they're going to be 6-0. They need to win to keep pace with them.
Well, I will say this on the Seahawks' behalf, all those stats for the Ravens impressive, but they racked up 7,000 yards and 250 points in Week 1 against Miami, so it does skew it a little bit, once you've got the Dolphins on your roster. Hey, Greg, we appreciate the time very much, as always. Again, on Twitter, @GBellSeattle. Where else can people listen and read you?
Well, thank you. The newstribune.com or Tacoma News Tribune website, all my stories are on there as well.
Great. Greg, we really appreciate it, and thanks so much for the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Greg Bell joining us, Tootell, Nuanez, and, he makes a compelling argument, man, when the best player of the game is playing the most important position of the game for your team, you're always going to have an advantage. Now, is it that hands down that Russell Wilson is the best quarterback that there is? Probably not, but he is playing the best through 6 games this NFL season. I don't think that is in doubt.
The recency bias of watching some of the throws that Aaron Rodgers made last night, you're like, man, how is this guy?
Look at me. I'm doing a Seattle Seahawks segment in full Packers regalia. Go Pack Go. But yes, all right. I mean,
it's
hard to say.
It's hard to say. Russell Wilson is a peerless competitor. He's an unbelievable competitor. And I think that's just truly what sets him apart. His arm talent is ridiculous. We all know that. I mean, he's had one of the best arms in the league or in the country, whatever level he's been at since he came to college. I mean, he has had an elite. I mean, he's got such an elite arm. He got drafted in baseball. I mean, he's got a silly arm, but it's his never say die attitude, and the fact that, you know, I was very skeptical of this when they made him one of the highest paid players in the NFL. I was skeptical what that would do to their roster. But I think that the fact that has then straight empowered him to be the show, the team. It's like Greg Bell just said. He knows the playbook way better than Brian Schottenheimer, who's the offensive coordinator. That in itself, when you have the mindset and the relentless competitive attitude like Russell Wilson, it puts you over the top. And that, I think that's what's been so impressive about him. His efficiency, but also his command. I think that's the part that's just so impressive, and that's why he's operating at an MVP-like level.
Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Our thanks to Greg Bell for joining us, talking a little bit of Seahawks as they get ready for now a really good Baltimore team on Sunday. We'll take a quick break. Grizzlies at Sacramento State on Saturday. Montana State enjoying a bye, or maybe not enjoying, but on a bye, a needed bye, I think, so you should enjoy it at least, try and get healthy. But it's going to be a battle between two good quarterbacks. The last four Big Sky offensive players of the week have been one of these two players, Kevin Thompson or Dalton Snead. We'll hear from Bobby Houck about Kevin Thompson, and then we will talk about these two quarterbacks, overlaying them against each other right after this. Hey, cleaning your gutters, it ain't fun, okay? And it's potentially dangerous. You could fall, you could get hurt, head of the hospital, but guess what? Your gutters still won't be clean. If that happens, job half done, you don't want that. Go to MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Cleaning your gutters is messy. It does not smell good. It's difficult to do. You probably don't have the right equipment. Get somebody who's got the right equipment, who knows what they're doing, who's fully insured, and who will take that headache off of your plate. Okay, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. You spend a few bucks, you check it off your list. You can go play golf a late season round. You can watch some football. You can go on a date, go out to dinner, whatever you want to do. Okay? Get your estimate now, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. When the job is done, you're going to get a $20 gift card too. How about that? They're going to give you a present to your favorite brewery or coffee shop as soon as the job is finished. Online, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Don't waste your time. Don't risk anything. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Fall is here, and with crisp mornings, there is no better way to start your day with a delicious drink from Florence Coffee. With flavors like indulgent white chocolate, decadent Madagascar vanilla, and rich dark chocolate, Flowco is sure to start your day off right wherever you're heading. We look forward to serving you, and visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's Fall Comfort Food Menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Ryan Tootell here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. The Big Sky Conference continues to put 5 teams in the weekly Stats FCS Top 25 poll. But this week, the national poll features a new squad. For the first time since 2011, the Sacramento State Hornets are in the top 25. They defeated number 22 Eastern Washington and number 6 Montana State in consecutive weeks. Hornets break into the poll at number 15. The 34-21 win in Bozeman last week served as Sac State's first at Bobcat Stadium since 91. And the number 6 ranking of MSU was the highest victory for a ranked opponent ever for Sacramento State.
Two-time defending Big Sky champion Weber State held steady at number 4 after a 29-14 win over in-state rival Southern Utah. Montana moved up 3 spots to number 5 despite having a bye last week, as 4 teams in the top 10 and 11 in the top 25 fell. Montana State was one of those teams that fell, dropping 6 spots to number 12. A 48-24 win by UC Davis helped the Aggies snap a 3-game losing streak and move up 1 spot from number 24 to number 23.
In Bozeman last week, Sac State quarterback Kevin Thompson put on a clinic. He piled up 334 yards of total offense and 5 touchdowns, becoming the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week. The former UNLV transfer was recruited to Vegas by current Grizz head coach Bobby Hauck. He leads the Hornets against the Grizz in Sacramento on Saturday night. And in the ALCS, the New York Yankees losing 4-0 in the bottom of the 8th. 1 out, 5 outs away from Houston going up 2-0. Pitches, I think, from Garrett Cole in this one, shutting out the Yankees through 7. And Joe Smith walks on, loads the bases, gets a controversial out at first, and then, as we're talking, the Yankees are on the board. Home run for the New York Yankees. They break through 4-1. Impressive. Okay. It ain't over. It ain't over yet. Things were rolling. Question of whether Garrett Cole should even come out of the game, and just like that, the Yankees are on the board. Get a home run to at least break through and start to make this a little bit interesting. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Golter, we are broadcasting live, by the way, from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Kevin Thompson and Dalton Snead. To me, I don't know if they're the 2 most similar. You might be able to find 2 guys that are similar, but they are the most similar to each other. If you're comparing Dalton Snead to any other quarterback in the Big Sky Conference, to me the comparison is Kevin Thompson and vice versa. Kevin Thompson has a great arm. He plays in a really good system and is just really talented all the way around. What stuck out to me most on Saturday, watching him in person, he's so quiet in the pocket. He is really, really poised and, unflappable back there. And, obviously he takes off and runs and scrambles and does all that stuff. But when he's sitting back there, it's just easy. And when he throws the football, it's just kind of on to the next play. You think of quarterback with so many progressions, so much flying at you, defensive ends trying to, get to your blind side. And it's a frenetic position, man. I mean, it just is the decision-making that's got to come. Guys who can just sort of sit back there and, I won't say make it look easy because it's not easy, but be calm about the way that they go about it are really impressive to me, and I found Kevin Thompson to be that on Saturday.
It's interesting because Bobby Houck recruited both these guys to UNLV, and I do think that broadly they're similar because they can both run, they can both throw. But I think they're not that similar in certain elements. Mainly, I think that the personalities, their own personal personalities, play into the way that they play. Kevin Thompson is much more cool, calm, and collected and a smooth operator, whereas Dalton Sneed is an aggressive son of a gun. This guy is coming at you. Dalton Sneed throws the ball 95 miles per hour in the first quarter all the time. Takes him forever to get locked in because he's straight up so juiced. Whereas Kevin Thompson, he's like the wise old guy. He has seen it. He's been there. I think he appreciates where he's at, being a sixth-year junior who's going to have a seventh year of college eligibility next year. It's like he said, the running joke around the Sac State campus is they call him Dr. Thompson. You're going to have your PhD by the time you're even out of here. I think that comes into play as well. Also when he runs the ball, he's bigger than Sneed. He can run a little bit more between the tackles, but he's not nearly as explosive. Dalton Sneed, as we saw last year against Sac State, he could put his foot in the ground and he could rip off a 75-yard touchdown run. Thompson can gash you for sure, but I don't think he's necessarily the big play threat. Sneed, now that Troy Anderson's playing defense at Montana State for now or whatever they might be doing with him, Sneed is the most explosive runner in the league outside of Eric Berrier at Eastern Washington. And I think that these two guys right now are 1A and 1B for the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year if the season were to end today. A lot of great quarterbacks in the Big Sky. We knew that was going to be the case coming into this thing. The last week, look at the stat lines across the league. Everything, but the Grizzlies were off, but the rest of the stat lines, everybody was on full display. Berrier threw for almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Right.
Matt Struck threw for almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Jake Mayer threw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So guys were lighting it up across the league, and I expect that to continue. But it's an interesting comparing and contrasting because I think that Kevin Thompson and Dalton Sneed are equally as important to their teams. Honestly, Sneed might be just slightly more just because of his fiery leadership, which goes so hand in hand with his head coach. But you could also say that about Thompson because Troy Taylor's such a cerebral play caller, and Thompson, he can make the adjustments on the fly. I thought that Sneed has made some of the most wow throws in the league this year. A couple of those throws he made against UC Davis, that ball was whistling. And you're like, man, that's an NFL caliber throw. But Thompson, his touch is so impressive. He had a couple throws in that Cat game where he basically threw it
between the levels,
8 inches over where the middle linebacker or the safety couldn't get there, and it was just money every time. So these two are definitely two of the better guys in the league, probably the two best, at least in terms of operation right now.
You asked Bobby Houck about Kevin Thompson. Here it is.
What would you like about Kevin Thompson coming out of high school, and what have you thought of the way his career's evolved? Because it's been very atypical to be able to play this long and still have 2 years left.
Well, he's in this situation because he's had a bunch of injuries. But Kevin's he's a good athlete. He can run. He's fast. He's got a good arm. I think he's got a real good feel in the pocket. Knows when to pull it down and go. And when he does, he's really effective. He's good in the quarterback run game. He's a good football player, and he's competitive. He's a guy that from a young age you could tell he loved to play.
There you go. There's Bobby Houck on Kevin Thompson on this season so far. 148 of 226. It's a 65.5% completion percentage for 1,735 yards for Kevin Thompson. Dalton Sneed, 159 of 234, 1,879 yards. His percentage 68%. So these guys are hand in hand with one another where they're at. 15-4 touchdown to interception for Dalton Sneed, 19-4 for Kevin Thompson. So the numbers remarkably similar between these two players here halfway through the year.
Over the last 3 seasons with Kevin Thompson healthy, he has thrown, after last week, he's thrown 44 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions as a starter at Sac State. That's unbelievable efficiency. Dalton Sneed, in his 2 years as a starter as Montana, he has thrown 37 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So still pretty darn good.
Yep.
But the single-digit interceptions by Thompson is impressive. Sneed's throwing for 313 yards per game, and Thompson's throwing for 289 yards per game. I think a little bit of that is just the fact that Sac State's run game is a little bit better as well, so they don't have to rely on it as much. But also they don't have the receivers to force feed the ball like Montana does. I mean, right now, Sammy Kim is number 1 in the league in receiving yards per game, 95 yards per game. But Samari Torrey is number 5 in the league in receiving yards per game at 89.8 yards per game. So those two guys are high-level producers. And I know, by the way, they also have one of the best slot guys in the league in Jerry Lou McGee, and that's not to mention some of the other guys who can really hurt you as well. Right. So Montana has more weapons on the outside, but Kevin Thompson's done such a great job of using all his weapons as well. Pierre Williams is their go-to guy, number 84. He's a big, strong guy who really burst onto the scene a year ago. But Elijah Dotson has been tremendous in the pass game as well. I mean, he's 4th in the conference in receptions per game. He's catching 6.5 passes per game. He's got 39 catches for 437 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's impressive numbers for a season for a running back out of the backfield, let alone at this point in the year. So it's an interesting comparing and contrasting because these guys are both very savvy. And I think that Kevin Thompson is a little bit more consistent, but Dalton Snead's a little bit more explosive.
Yeah, and you're right to point out the differences personality-wise, and that matters football-wise in the way that these two guys go about it, because they are very different in that respect. I just think that their skill sets, I mean, they both have they both fit what their offensive coordinators and their coaches are trying to do about perfectly. I mean, I don't know if you could imagine a better guy for their respective systems, which is credit to everybody. I mean, you're supposed to build it around a guy if you got a guy that you believe in. So they, both Montana and Sacramento State have done that. But I think the dual threat side of it, where Eric Berrier is unbelievable with his legs. I mean, what he can do making guys miss and all that. He's the best runner to me of all the quarterbacks in the Big Sky Conference. But Dalton Snead and Kevin Thompson both will kill you with their legs and on some of the RPO stuff and the cold run stuff as well. To your point, Dalton Snead probably a better runner than KT is, but both of them, let's put it like this, it's a game planning headache for every defense. Like, you have to prepare for it and try and figure out how it is that you're going to deal with it, and it's not easy to do, and they both bring that element to the game. And the finesse that Kevin Thompson showed versus the rifle that Dalton Snead has shown is certainly a dissimilarity, but how they end up operating the offense and what they are able to do in the pass game is similar. The difference to me, the central difference, is what you just pointed out. The fact that Montana just has more dudes, a lot more. I mean, you talk about the big three all day long, but you could get right. I mean, Gabe Sulcer, Mitch Roberts. Did I get it right? Yes.
Yes, you did.
Woo! I'm firing on all cylinders today. The triple-headed tight end group, and throw a Marcus Knight in there. I mean,
Gabe Sulcer.
Gabe Sulcer, right? So they have so many more high-end weapons, it seems to me, and that is part of it. I do think if there is one knock, though, that we've seen from Dalton Snead, it is his inability at times to just lay it up there. Like he has to fire it in there all the time, and no, you don't.
We last game we were talking about Snead throwing on the sideline, and it looked like he was throwing gingerly, and we wondered if he had taken a hit on his shoulder, which he's had problems with in the past. We also wondered then if he got hit on the elbow and he was having trouble gripping the ball. I got a text from a listener. I hadn't thought of this. The listener's observation was that he was throwing lightly intentionally to try to get himself to take a little bit off of it, because he had been just rifling the ball in that first quarter against Idaho State. I thought that was an interesting point. I don't really know what the confirmation is. I'm going to interview Dalton Snead after practice tomorrow, so I'll ask him, and we'll find out.
Because it was he was certainly throwing it lightly. We might have thought gingerly is an odd throwing motion, and maybe it's just kind of a stretch it out thing. It was very deliberate though when you were watching. I mean, that's the thing. He was not doing this in some natural throwing motion. He was over there. But yeah, an interesting deal. Point being, both these kids tremendous at their respective positions and in their respective schools, and it's going to be a really fun game to see these two lead their offenses and go about it on Saturday evening. That game again on SWX Montana television across the state. Take a quick break. we'll wrap this thing up. We'll get into some baseball stuff. We are now into the top of the ninth inning. 1 on, 2 outs for Houston as they bat. After the Torres home run for the Yankees, they were not able to score again in the 8th inning. So 2 outs for Houston, and then they will come on and try and close out the New York Yankees in the bottom of the ninth. We'll keep you updated on that, get you set for Washington, St. Louis next.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy, education, and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tootell and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
Yankees still not out of the inning. 2 on, 2 out in the top of the ninth. A 1-2 count with Uriel from Luis Cessa. Cessa struck out the side in the 8th, trying to get out of a little jam here in the 9th. Get Guriel to pop up, so it looks like the Yankees will head to the bottom of the 9th inning in a 3-run deficit. They got 3 outs to figure out a way to get 3 runs against the Houston Astros. This series tied at a game apiece. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, you can check it out on the podcast. The podcast available wherever you get your podcast. You can listen to the Tootell and Nuanez podcast. It's available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. New episode of FCS Speculators going to be out tomorrow, early Thursday, something like that. And happy to do that, episode 4. We got some good stuff in there for you this week, some more great guests. So enjoying doing that. And man, I killed it this last week. I feel very good about my bad self.
Man.
8-2 against the spread, Coulter. I mean, come on now. That's like pro. That's like shark stuff. Man. No, man. No.
Can't.
We know how that goes. I win 100 in a row, and the first one I put down $3 on. No chance.
Well, you won 85 cents during your anniversary weekend.
I did win 85 cents, but I tipped it. So,
God, I would just love to see you in Butte, Montana, Butte, America, cashing out an 85-cent win. The lady probably just wanted to throw the change. She, first of all, probably wanted to give you 85 pennies.
You want to know what she? You want to know what she did? She looked at me very, very quizzically, then a little bit sort of shoulder shruggishly, if I might say, and walked off, and then brought me my money. And then, you know what? She loved me after that.
You're hard not to love. The bane of my existence.
12 years. What's up, Tina? You got to me first. Congratulations. You won the lottery. Have we done everything? Online, 1029ESPN.com. Opportunity Bank brings us the live stream each and every day. We appreciate them for that. Listen live on that Listen Live tab there at the website, and you can listen wherever you are. Out of market, in market, doesn't even matter. Coulter, again, want to remind everybody, our ESPN Roundtable tomorrow on the show, and then again at noon on Thursday with Andy Thompson, defensive coordinator of the Sacramento State Hornets, former Grizzly football player, longtime coordinator for Jerome Sowers at NAU. His first year at Sacramento State. Really good to catch up with Andy again. He's been, coaching 20 years almost, a long time. 04 he graduated, so 15, but he's been in football his whole life, and is doing a really good job of it at Sacramento State. I mean, they're the number one scoring defense, number one total defense in the Big Sky Conference. Hard to be better than that. So I look forward to talking with him tomorrow on the show for the roundtable.
He's married to a Missoula girl, so he's got a lot of Missoula family.
Yeah, comes back.
I'm sure there's Missoula people around here, and every time the Montana job comes open or a job at Montana comes open, his name's almost always floated around. But we got breaking news coming through the headphones. Marcus Peters traded earlier today by the Rams to the Baltimore Ravens. Tell the people what just happened.
They're wanting to make space, evidently. David Graff, producer, breaking news on the headset. Jalen Ramsey from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Los Angeles Rams. So I guess an upgrade. Marcus Peters to Jalen Ramsey. If Jalen Ramsey's content and happy, he plays very, very well. So, significant. Not necessarily unexpected. We've been waiting for it, and now we got it. So Jalen Ramsey off of the Jacksonville Jaguars and over to the Los Angeles Rams. Probably more on that tomorrow would be my guess. We'll get into it. Want to give you another update here. It is the bottom of the ninth inning now. The New York Yankees trying to stay alive in this baseball game. Garrett Cole pitched an absolute gem. 7 innings of shutout baseball. I think 111 pitches for Garrett Cole for the Houston Astros. The relief pitcher, Joe Cole, I think, in the second inning, or in the 8th inning, gave up a single one-shot solo home run to New York. That gave them 1 run. But in the bottom of the 9th inning, the second fly out to center field was just been made, and Ozuna is on to close this thing out for Houston, and the Yankees down to their final out in Game 3. It's a big game, man. And Garrett Cole came on, did what he was supposed to do to be a dominant ace type of starting pitcher, went perfect. I mean, he wasn't perfect in the pitching sense, perfect in terms of a perfect game, but at the end of the day, what matters? Runs. He gave up none of them. That's perfect. And now Houston looking to take a 2-1 lead in this series. But again, this is a series that could go a long, long ways. Houston has the better starting pitching by far in this series. The Yankees have the better bullpen by far in this series, and both these teams can light it up offensively. I mean, they got dudes up and down the lineup for both of these teams. So really interesting. The Yankees have to get an early lead in order to just go to the bullpen and bring out shutdown guy after shutdown guy. And they really haven't been able to do it. They have not been able to get to the Houston starting pitching in this series as of yet. Not when I say get to, I mean really get to it. Like, get yourself a lead where you can start to kick that bullpen into drive. Word is tomorrow, bad weather expected in the Big Apple. And so we will have Game 4 for you on ESPN Radio tomorrow, but just be aware they're already talking about a potential delay, if not postponement, of the baseball game of Game 4 tomorrow in this ALCS. We also today, after the show here in just a couple minutes, going to send you out to the nation's capital, where amazingly the Washington Nationals are one game away from the World Series. I mean, this is a stunner to me, Coulter. I mean, I know when you got Strasburg and when you got Scherzer and when you got Rendon, I mean, you're in business, okay? I mean, this is a good team. But to lose Bryce Harper and to have been as, I wouldn't say hapless. I mean, they've been nothing but a joke. Last out made, game over, Game 3 to Houston. It's not the Washington Nationals have been a good team, but they've been a disappointment relative to expectations. Mm-hmm. And then you lose a guy who's, one of the great young talents of the game, and you go, okay, well, we'll see. And now all of a sudden, they have the best year in their franchise's history and are a game away from the ultimate, series.
The Ewing theory strikes again.
Yeah.
The New York Knicks built it around Patrick Ewing for 20 years, and then when Patrick Ewing retired, what do the Knicks do? They rip off all the way to the NBA Finals. They didn't win that Finals. That was the first championship for Tim Duncan and David Robinson and the Spurs, but they got better without the pillar of their franchise. And baseball's not the same in terms of the team continuity. I mean, it does help to get along as a baseball team, make no doubt, but it makes more sense when you get rid of a focal point, how everybody else can thrive, just because you don't have this, especially in Patrick Ewing's case, 7-foot guy you just got to dump the ball down to, because why wouldn't you? He's one of the all-time great players in NBA history. But it happens a lot, man, when somehow you have this transcendent and dominant star. When they leave, it lets everybody else be free, and somehow it makes it so that you can surge. Interesting that there's been this weird dark cloud over Washington sports for quite some time, and the Capitals and the Nationals had almost the identical narrative. One of the great players in the game, in Alex Ovechkin or Bryce Harper, great in the regular season, largely disappointing in the postseason.
Yep.
Difference is Ovechkin led the Capitals to the Stanley Cup, but the Nationals now, if they could turn this and win one, that would be epic for the nation's capital. And you just wonder when the luck is going to matriculate down to the Washington Wizards. I'll tell you this, it ain't going to matriculate down to the Washington Redskins. They are so far beyond dysfunctional to ever even receive a drop of luck. It ain't happening until Dan Snyder sells that team.
Patrick Corbin going for the Washington Nationals. Dakota Hudson, right-hander, going for the St. Louis Cardinals. By the way, quick update. The Jacksonville Jaguars receiving 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey in 2020 and 2021. The next 2 drafts, they're going to get the Rams first-round picks, and they're getting a 4th-rounder in 2021 as well. So 3 draft picks, 2 big ones, heading over from the Los Angeles Rams to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a win-now move if ever there was one. Well, gutsy, I guess, is what I would say about that. It's going to take me some time to go through this and try and figure out exactly what I think about it. I think the Rams felt like, hey, things aren't going that well. The thing is, I think people felt largely like it was not really clicking all that much on offense, and they go and they make the big defensive splash here, getting Jalen Ramsey. But it's a major pickup and one that's going to be all over the board the next 24 hours in this next news cycle. So I'm excited about that.
I mean, Jalen Ramsey, one of the most talented players in the league. The Rams are really searching right now, and this could be a huge – I mean, he's upgrading talent over Marcus Peters, no question. But – and we'll get into this a little bit more tomorrow, but the Rams, with where they're at right now, the Super Bowl hangover, not being able to get back on track, is this an unnecessary distraction? We'll see.
Enjoy Game 4 NLCS right now.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
There's only one way to really enjoy fall sports, and that's on a full stomach. So whether you're watching the NCAA, MLB, NHL, NFL, NBA, whatever the letters, the Desperado has an A-plus menu to fill your belly while you're cheering on your team. Head to the Desperado for a juicy bacon burger, a steaming plate of cheesy nachos, ice-cold beer, and hands down, the best hot wings in town. If it's a steak you're looking for, well, they've got that too. Whether the game ends in a win or a loss, get your winner Despo dinner at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
ESPN Radio for West.